1. I am letting my best friend stay with me in my home with my spouse and our 3 children. We just bought a new build home in a family community earlier this year. I assisted friend with career options, got him into a tech program for a very reasonable cost, helped him write his resume, and got him a career job within 3 months. I've been letting him stay rent-free. I told him once he started working, we need to come up with an amount for him to pay. He has his own room and space, and all I ask is that he pitch in to help with household tasks like rinsing out his dishes, wiping down the bathrooms, vacuuming once a week, and not having dirty laundry on the floor all week. We've asked him to not walk through the landscaping rock's front lawn every day. We've asked him simply to turn the pool pump on in the mornings. We've asked him to turn the sprinklers on once a week. He doesn't do anything we've asked. He leaves his stuff out in the foyer area, on the counters, and it piles up. He's 30 and has lived with his mom, who most likely enabled this behavior. I've been simply just trying to get him on his feet, but he acts so entitled. He uses our cookware, we don't mind, but he does not wash it. And then we are left after work with no cookware. When the sink is full of dishes, I will wash 5 spoons for our family, and he will go and take it and use it. I'll say, I just washed that. And he says sorry. He says he doesn't have to do any cleaning because he is not a maid. I work from home, and I have a bathroom connected to my office, and he will use my work bathroom when I have asked him not to, as he doesn't want to go all the way upstairs. How is that my problem? If I go out and buy Kleenex, for example, he uses it up. And then when I don't have any, he doesn't replace it. Last night he used up all the taco sauce, and I asked him to go and replace it. Took my family out for breakfast burritos this morning, and we came home, and there was no taco sauce, and the fam wasn't happy. All he said was sorry. This happens all the time. He expects to be able to watch shows we don't allow our young children to view while they're awake, and will try to argue that it's not bad, but this isn't even his decision. He should feel lucky just to be able to join us in the living room for evening shows and movie time. I asked him to vacuum the other day, and he tells me he will do it on his time, so I told him he can pay for a maid if he wants me to continue being his maid. So he angrily vacuumed while my family and I were eating dinner. He assumes he can drink our soda and eat the food we make, and he doesn't even pitch in to help out. He doesn't buy toilet paper towels, cleaning supplies, etc. I will even be nice and wash his laundry and ask that he puts it away within 3 days, so I can use my laundry bins. Sometimes I'll ask that he puts his clothes in the dryer if I start the wash process, and I'll see the next day he hasn't even touched it. So then my laundry and kids' laundry is behind. Then he makes it seem like he didn't do it because there wasn't a bin available or that he was too tired. He gives me ultimatums, and it doesn't make sense. This is my and my spouse and my children's home. If we ask him to do something like, can you put the dinner away that we cooked and you ate so it doesn't spoil, he gets angry and says, I guess I can be nice and do it. And he waits, and we end up just doing it. I ask him not to leave his shoes and slippers out, and he will say, Don't even, I've seen you leave yours out. Again, we have a shoe bin, and most of the time our shoes are out of the way, but he acts like he's a king and gets to leave his by the door for his convenience. We ask him to fill the water jugs up once a week and refill the water machine with the water when it lights up empty, and he won't even do that. And when we run out, our kids can't fill up their water bottles for school, so sometimes we will fill it with just enough for us, and he will fill his bottle the night before, and we have none. We gave him the benefit of the doubt by telling him to only pay 1/3 of his income. Our mortgage is like $3,000 a month, electricity is like $450 to $550 a month, gas $200 a month, water $150 a month, which has significantly gone up with his 2-hour showers, etc. Rent for a 1-bedroom starts at $1,300 here, rough areas, and a nice 1-bedroom apartment runs $1,600 to $1,800 monthly. We presented $800 a month, and he acted as if we were crazy. I get that he maybe hasn't had to pay bills before other than Venmoing his mom money for his car payment. But this is life, right? What do you say to a best friend doing this because he acts like we're out of our mind for asking him to do basic tasks? When I lived with somebody, I paid them, and I made sure their home was spotless without asking. It's weird having to address this stuff, as I feel he should be grateful for all the help we've done and continue to do so. I do not want to make him sound horrible, it's just his sense of entitlement. We do coffee runs on the weekend, and we even get him coffee every weekend, but if we don't, he won't even offer to get us coffee, not once. In fact, he's completely done taking my free drink rewards. I'm fine sharing once in a while, but not every weekend. We include him in family game nights, card games, etc., but you can see the attitude, which of course makes us have an attitude. But we're the bad guys. Okay. I'm going to sit down this evening after I'm off work and read the comments to him. He will probably say, "I do help out. I'm only one person, and one person can't be that big of a deal." He has no legal knowledge at all whatsoever, so if I say get out, he will. He will just tell everyone we know that I kicked him out for no reason. I was trying to help him get on his feet, but so far it's a one-way street. Update. He Venmo'd me $500 towards rent. He got paid, but has still not sent me the remaining $300. It felt really weird, but I sent him a request payment of $300 on Venmo. Hellraiser's note. I'm sorry to have to say this, because perhaps he has redeeming features, almost angelic redeeming features, that aren't coming through here, but it sounds like right now you don't so much have a best friend as you have a problem. And that problem is disrupting the peace of your home. It certainly must be taking a toll on you, your husband, and the kids. All you're asking him to do are very small things. It might seem like a lot of things when you add them up, but the very small things literally would take a minute to do in most cases. At most, it probably will, 30 minutes out of his week in exchange for an extremely cheap rent, which he's not even paying. So I think ultimately your solution here is, if you want to salvage the friendship, you have to do what might seem like the cruel thing on the surface and kick him out. Then he can put on his big boy pants, which you have presumably laundered for him, and go seek accommodations elsewhere in a circumstance that meets his own requirements, because clearly your current living situation is not ideal for either of you. He doesn't like adhering to your very simple and reasonable rules, and you don't like that either. So if he gets his own place, or if he gets a place with a roommate whose own standards are equal to his, then that should make everybody happy, right? Or, like I say, he could just do the very simple things you're asking and really appreciate just how lucky he has it right now, and take this temporary arrangement, because it is a temporary arrangement, to bridge the gap between his mother taking care of him and him learning to stand on his own two very capable feet. Because it doesn't sound like there's anything like any physical disability, any mental disability, depression, anxiety, OCD. It doesn't sound like there's anything holding him back from doing these things. Good luck. Maybe seeing the comments back, maybe hearing it read out loud will be beneficial to both of you. And I hope it works out, and you both find yourself in a situation that meets both your needs. Separately. 2. Me and 3 other students moved in together in a student house back in September. First few weeks were mostly fine, except for one of our roommates and a former friend we'll call Patricia. 20. Female. Another roommate, Stacy, 21, female, and I, 20, and male, lived with her last year as well, and she would consistently patronize and talk down to us, as if the house were hers alone and we were guests. Her reasoning behind these belittling remarks were that me and Stacy would never lift a finger when we lived together last year, and never clean anything. Everything was always her. One time we had guests over, and I cleaned the entire house and came home and said, "Oh, I thought I'd have to do everything myself." Another time we were on a night out and in the smoking area, albeit a little drunk. She said, "I do everything in the house." She has now started saying outright that she did everything was done by her to our faces, that she was cleaning everything before she would go home for the weekend, and also do a deep clean all by herself every single month. The truth is that me and Stacy would always wipe down benches, wash and put away our dishes immediately after use, also her dishes, which she would leave sitting for weeks, take turns putting the bin out before we would go home for the weekend, and obviously clean up any messes, dust, spills, stickiness, whatever in the living room and bathroom. To be completely honest, a deep clean of the house every month is something that never even crossed my mind when living together. Patricia argued to us that it is never her responsibility to tell us to clean, which is obviously true. I'm not saying it was. I'm never saying we wanted her to come to us and constantly ask us to clean. All I'm saying is that we should have sat down as a collective and worked together to sort out who should do what, and we could have worked together to do a deep clean at the end of the month. Instead of this, she's taking this fake responsibility of having to do this all by herself, and constantly seeks praise for it and weaponizes it against us, which is transferred back over to this year. We choose to live together again because these belittling comments would come and go, and Stacy and I were still close friends with her. Cut to this year, Patricia's friend, Laura, 20, female, also moved in with us. Right off the bat, they created a rift with the gas payments, which is pay-as-you-go, which paired her and Laura together and Stacy and I together. This didn't bother us at the time, we really didn't care, but it definitely created some kind of rift. Patricia would frequently laugh and joke with Stacy and I about certain subjects, but when Laura was with us, she would call us weird and continue talking about something else with Laura. Changed a lot. She would frequently dismiss us and once again speak down to us. One night, Patricia, Stacy, and I went on a night out, and when we came back, Patricia was shouting and singing and dancing in the living room, while Stacy and I simply sat in quiet and ate our food. Next day, Patricia comes up to us and tells us that we woke up Laura, and that we should try not to do that anymore. Not even a week later, I was trying to sleep, as I had an early seminar when Patricia and Laura came back from a night out with several strangers and sit in the living room, shouting and laughing and screaming. Mainly Patricia. Laura, which I appreciated, frequently tried her best to stay quiet. The next day, we said to Patricia, as she said to us, but she dismissed us, laughing, saying she knew Stacy and I would not care. She also once again began bossing us around, acting as the leader of the house, and passive-aggressively ensuring that everyone bought their share of gas, and once again making offhanded comments about cleaning, while once again leaving her dishes sitting around for weeks, leaving countertops sticky, leaving the top of the stove disgusting, and overall leaving the kitchen a mess. Tired of her attitude towards us, Stacy and I began hanging out together without Patricia. Never purposely rubbing it in her face, just going to lunch or dinner or shopping occasionally. Of course, as everyone does, we would post pics to our stories. Genuinely, this was never meant to hurt Patricia, it was just what we always did. Eventually, she randomly texts into the group chat that there is tension, and we're all having a meeting. Seeing this as our opportunity, Stacy and I inform her of our feelings, about the state of things, the way she speaks to others, and that we would appreciate it if it were a nicer or more chill of a tone. The entire meeting was awkward. She asked for times she spoke that way, we completely blanked under pressure. Laura felt awkward, as it mostly didn't have anything to do with her, but we agreed to sketch up a cleaning rota to give everyone a fair job to do. The group chat continued to blow up, however, with me and Stacy feeling as though we were dismissed in our feelings toward Patricia and her attitude, which led to a major rift and falling out. In all fairness, the conversation got heated, and I may have said things that were truthful, but became angry in tone and argumentative regarding her attitude towards us. After this, she blocked us, took away all of our photos and shared collection items we decorated the living room with, and ignores us any chance she gets. This past week, I'll admit I feel bad about it. Stacy and I are currently at our respective homes due to our classes being finished for Christmas, and we texted in about not wanting to pay for the house's gas as we were not there and would not be using it. In the house, electricity is none of our responsibility. The Wi-Fi bill is a fixed contract that takes a fixed amount out of Patricia's account every month, so of course I am okay with paying that. However, our gas is pay-as-you-go, and I personally do not feel it is fair to contribute to something that I am not using. Patricia blew up at Stacy and I, stating it is not fair to them, and since they paid the first week, we owe them a week of gas, which I can see, but I don't understand how she would not pay for it now, when we would not be using it. She began stating that they paid for Stacy and I to stay warm last week, and we owe them and were being bad people. But she words it in a way that implies that she and Laura were not there using it. I did feel bad for the short notice of informing them that I didn't want to pay gas, apologized for that, and assured them that if it ever came up again, I would give plenty of notice, but did not apologize for personally feeling I shouldn't pay for something I am not there experiencing. Stacy and I have also offered to pay the first 2 or 3 weeks of gas after Christmas. All this in mind, can someone please truthfully tell me if I'm being a psychotic, unreasonable, terrible roommate in this situation? Hellfreezer's note. Psychotic and unreasonable and terrible? No, you're not. But regarding the gas situation, while it is reasonable that you shouldn't have to pay what you're not using for the gas, it would be different if it was a monthly bill. At that point, I would just tell you to pay your share. I really would. And I have given that advice to somebody on Reddit once before. But what you're not considering, and I think a lot of people forget this, is your gas company has a standing charge, even with a pay-as-you-go meter. There'll be a certain charge per day, obviously not knowing where you live or what company you're with. I couldn't say what it is, but for example, I'm with British Gas, and they are 31.66 pence per day as a standing charge. So what you could do as a peace offering is just say, hey, look, I will pay the standing charge for the days that I'm gone. But you, and then tell them what it is, add it up, it's only going to be a few quid, and they can pay for the actual gas usage. Because the standing charge is something that will accumulate whether it's being used or not. If you were away for weeks on end, and you came back and you had, I don't know, say you put like 20 quid in the meter, you thought, oh, 20 quid in the meter, that'll be fine. You come back after a few weeks, you might find that money's mostly gone, even though you've not been using it because of the daily charge. But everything else, I don't think you're being unreasonable. She sounds a little bit much to take. Maybe she's got redeeming qualities that she keeps very well hidden. 3. So for context, I'm in college, and I rent a house with 4 other roommates. I share a room with one roommate who is wonderful, and the problem housemate, Emmy, shares a room with another person. We have a 5th housemate who has a single room. We all share a kitchen and living room and eating space. I have lived with my current roommate for 2 years, and we have always had smooth sailing. The roommate in the single room has also lived with us before, so the 3 of us have pretty good roommate chemistry. Emmy's roommate isn't home a lot, so I don't have much to say about him. Then there's Emmy and her cat. When we went looking for a 5th person to split rooms and rent with, Emmy advertised herself as very clean, almost to a fault, person with a friendly cat who is okay with being around strangers, any gender, and other animals. This is relevant, as we have a co-ed house and I own a dog. Before living with them, I knew Emmy to be a somewhat argumentative person, but more in a fun debate way than a fighting way, and I figured if she was clean and communicative, we would have no issues. Suffice to say, I was sorely mistaken. Emmy set up a chore system where we have a wheel of names for each of 3 chores, and every day a magnet on one of the names. After that name does their chore, they can move the magnet clockwise over to the next name. Emmy often doesn't do the chore, resulting in all the magnets falling on her name from the build-up of work, which then becomes everyone's problem. Or she just moves the magnet without doing the chore, so the person after her has to pick up the slack. More annoyingly, she constantly complains about how messy things are and asks us to clean up all the time. She grew up having a cleaning lady come to her mansion twice a week, so I kind of understand why she thinks this behavior is normal, but it's so not. Yeah, speaking of the mansion, Emmy and her family are super rich. They have their mansion, a condo on the rooftop floor on the beach, 3 backyard-bred dogs, each with their own set of expensive strange health issues, and 2 cats if you count Emmy's. Emmy is super stingy, never helping pay for house supplies or gas, obsessing over every penny, constantly splurging on DoorDash or eating out, or shopping sprees, but then complaining about how much money everything costs. This is especially annoying considering me and my roommate live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to make ends meet each month. I can't afford to give out free rides and food. But Emmy acts entitled to my car and groceries. Now the cat. Oh, the cat. First of all, she hates strangers, dogs, and being alone. She crapped on Emmy's roommate's bed once. Anytime Emmy leaves the room or house, the cat starts meowing and crying and yowling. So clearly there is some sort of separation anxiety. Leaves the cat with some water and a cat tree in front of their window, but nothing else to do. The cat has to stay inside Emmy's room as she gets angry and aggressive towards us and my dog when she is allowed to roam the house. Despite me communicating all of this to Emmy, she still chooses to leave her door open, which allows the cat to view people and my dog walking into the house, which makes her angry, and she starts hissing. Emmy claims cats can't be trained, but I've since learned that isn't true, so I've zero empathy for how her supposed trained ESA is acting. I trained my dog to live with others. He is calm, friendly, never aggressive, and gets along well with everyone, including animals. Overall, I just did not get what I expected in this roommate, and I am annoyed. I have one more semester of living with them, and I'm going to set hardcore boundaries about their use of my resources and how their cat behaves. Just the things that affect me, like the obvious poop smell and constant yowling. I know a lot of these problems could be solved if people would just communicate with one another. I have had both private conversations with Emmy and group conversations with the entire household, and they have all resulted in either Emmy denying the issue, storming off angrily, and cussing us out, or storming off crying. I also forgot to mention what is probably the most serious and important part of this. Emmy kicks my dog. At first she just did it when I wasn't home, but then I saw her do it in my room on my pet camera app. And then she started doing it in front of me. I won't be dramatic and say she is fully beating my dog, but I don't appreciate her slapping his mouth because the sounds of dogs licking is disgusting, or kneeing him in the stomach for sitting on his hind legs. This is a fun trick of his. He likes to jump up and dance and sit on his back two legs. I think it scares Emmy because my dog is quite large, so he looks tall when he sits up. But he's not hurting anyone by doing a trick. Since communication hasn't helped me solve this issue, my focus is now on keeping me, my roommate, and my dog safe and comfortable. I am no longer offering any car rides to Emmy. Me and my roommate will be separating our things and will only be cleaning our areas and dishes, etc. My dog will stay in my room while I'm gone instead of free roaming, and I will not be allowing Emmy to use any of my groceries and resources. Hellfreezer's note, set up a camera in the apartment while you're gone. Make sure your other roommates are cool with this. Obviously, don't ask Emmy. If she attacks your dog again, make sure it's recorded. Then report that bitch to the police. I, quite simply, am just not an animal person. I'm not a pet person. But I think they deserve to be treated kindly and with love and compassion, or at the very least, tolerance. Nobody should be hitting your dog, unless they want to get slapped about themselves. 4. Long story short, my wife and I bought a house 3 months ago, and one of our friends fell on hard times, so we offered him our spare room, since we have no kids and no real necessity for the extra room. Since we have moved in, he has carried his weight well and helped with the mortgage, so no complaints there. Does he do everything to our liking? No, but we don't really care since we understand that everyone has different standards, and as long as it gets done, we're fine. However, this house has epoxy flooring throughout the house, and for those who don't know, you can't just mop epoxy with bleach like other hardwood floors for sanitizing. Bleach will strip the clear coat effectively, making it lose its shine. I make a point to buy a very specific mop solution for the epoxy flooring and make sure it'll last as long as possible, as epoxy is extremely expensive to fix and replace. Problems began when we ran out of mop solution one day unbeknownst to me, and as I repeated this fact multiple times, he still insisted on mopping the floor, and when I asked him what the heavy smell of bleach was, I instantly knew what he had done. He lied right to my face, and he said he just used bleach to rinse out the mop. I repeated the fact that we cannot mop the floor with bleach and went to lay down praying for the best at that point. When I woke up the next morning, the floor was cloudy and began flaking in the high traffic areas of the house, where there was already wear on the epoxy. I wanted to rip the hair out of my skull and restrain from blowing up on him. So I began researching where and how much I get it repaired for, only to find out that it'll cost almost $30,000 to have the whole house redone. I gently pressed the subject again about him clearly mopping the floors with bleach, where he still insists he never did. Since then, he has refrained from touching the floors at all, as he saw I wasn't happy with the outcome, and things slowly went back to normal. For reference, my wife and I both work evenings and into the night, where he works early mornings into the afternoon. We are all respectful of each other's sleep schedules and try our best to avoid any disturbances while others are sleeping. When my wife and I get home, we will either get something quick on the way home or cook like normal people. We avoid slamming cabinets, talking loudly, clanking pots and pans, stopping the microwave a second before it beeps, etc. Out of courtesy, even though his room is on the total opposite end of the house, about 800 feet away. Well, last night we were cooking as usual, around 12 a.m., when he emerges from his room and walks into the kitchen with squinted eyes, and in a gravelly voice he said, "What the hell are you guys doing in here?" We thought we were being playful, so we replied, "Cooking," with a chuckle, and he said, "Can you at least open a window or something? The smell woke me up." Where my wife said, "Oh, I'm sorry, does it stink?" He replied with a confused look, "No, it smells good, but it woke me up." We looked at each other confused at this point, and pointed out that the hood vent above the stove was already on to avoid smoking up the place, and to get rid of the smell. Where he said it still wasn't enough, and that we really should refrain from cooking at all during the night. We pointed out that we don't have time at all to cook during the day, and eating out is expensive. We asked him what we could do to come to a compromise. When he repeated we could open a window, we pointed it was 40 degrees out at the moment, and don't think it'd do much except run up the gas bill for the heating. We asked him what else we could do when we were hungry, and he said, "I don't know, make a sandwich or a bowl of cereal." When we pointed out that we don't really eat throughout the day until we get home and would actually like a meal, he gave up and said, "Listen, I don't know, eat your hand or something, stop waking me up," and went back to bed. This morning we had a conversation with other close friends and family about this situation, and they all seem to agree that he's being unreasonable, and frankly, I just need to know if we're not being sensible. Hellfreezer's note. I think the problem here is that the longer he's staying, the more entitled he's going to become. I doubt it's going to stop there. What you need to do is give him a time when he needs to move out. Make it like a month or something for him to find another place to go. It really shouldn't be your problem at this point. You've been very accommodating. It's nice that he's pulling his weight with the household chores, but to the point where he's just not listening to you and doing things the way they should be done, and he's damaged your floors, seemingly. I would also argue even if he wasn't washing the floor with bleach, surely rinsing out the mop with bleach would still do damage to the floor? Just from potential residue if it's not thoroughly rinsed out. He has also done one thing that personally I just don't think is really forgivable. You and your wife have opened up your home to this person, and he has the audacity to tell you what you can do in your own home. At that point, it's time for him to go. You've been nice, you've been accommodating, but it's time for you to take your home back, and it'll be nice for you to not have to worry about what a guest might be doing again. 5. I have lived with my roommates, a long-time couple, for several years with no problems. I really enjoyed their company, and we were friends for a long time. We live in a nice area of town and have good connections to the rest of our community. We all work, and I take classes at a nearby community college. Lately, it seems like we've been on eggshells around each other, and I can't figure out what I did to upset them. Around people, my roommates act like we're still on great terms, but they are extremely cold to me when the house is empty. What confuses me most is that over the past few weeks, anytime I don't immediately clean up something I used, I get multiple texts from one of my roommates lecturing me about the mess and how unhygienic I am. And I mean immediately, within 3 to 5 minutes. However, when I left for the holidays to travel home, that roommate invited his entire family over to stay. When I returned, the house was empty of people, but absolutely trashed, and the smell. It was like rotting food mixed with crap and beer. There were clothes piled in every corner available, trash bags and dirty clothes in the bathrooms, wet towels everywhere, half-empty drinks on every surface, food rotting in the sink and atop the stove, shoes and luggage covering the floor, empty beer cases on the counter and dishes everywhere. I brought home some leftovers for my family's celebrations, and I had to clear space for the cake to be placed in the counter, and had to throw away the rest because there was no room in our fridge or freezer. When they returned for the night, they were all extremely intoxicated and loud, and blasted music until early hours of the morning. This is a very regular occurrence. None of the mess was cleaned up until his family left days later. They regularly leave the house having spilled drinks on the floor, leave dishes to soak in the sink or on the counter for days, leave their fast food trash on the table, and store open drinks and food in our fridge until they go bad. My food goes missing on a regular basis. They bring over large amounts of very drunk people with no warning, and use all our internet to the point that neither my phone nor computer can load my email. I can't imagine the fight we would have if I behaved like that. In addition to this, I pay our rent and all the bills are in my name, but I often have to wait days or weeks after they are due for my roommates to send their share. One of my roommates sends his portion of the rent late on a regular basis, and it is difficult for me to afford these extra expenses and wait to be reimbursed. It seems to me like there is a huge double standard for me to maintain the type of environment they want to live in, but they have no care for my comfort or preferences. Our lease ends sometime this June, and I don't have any legal reason for moving out or breaking our lease, and they cannot afford the rent on their own. Hellfreezer's note, as someone on Reddit did note, you should just start documenting everything they're doing wrong. Make sure you're recording any damages, especially that are done when they're done, just so you can reference them when it is time to move out, so you don't get stuck with the bill of paying for those. I would look at the terms of the lease if you haven't already done so. It could be that your roommate's late payment of rent might constitute a good reason for you to move out, or simply the unhygienic standards. You didn't agree to that. You're doing your part to keep everything neat and tidy for everyone. They don't seem to be doing the same, and that's just not fair. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates episode 47. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And do support me on my Patreon page. For as little as $1 a month, it really does help. Okay. No more business today, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Today's question is: how do you feel about smart homes? I've been gradually, just over time, making my home more of a smart home. I've got 2 Echo Dots. I have them actually both up and running now, replacing the bulbs over time with smart bulbs. I get the ones that you can change the colors of because it's kind of good for my mood. And let me think. Oh yeah, I've got at least 1 fan connected up and a couple of spare smart plugs for things that are to be decided. I do have another fan that could do with being used that way, so I might end up doing that. And that works for me, but it may not be for everybody. So is that something you're interested in? Is it something you're actually you're gradually switching over to? Or do you just have no use for it? Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Bad Roommates 45. And the question was, has a delivery service ever pleasantly surprised you? And today's answer comes from Lauren. I have a monthly subscription to meal replacement bars. This month they sent something totally different, which has gluten. I called on Friday, and they said they would happily send a replacement and I would receive it in 7 to 10 days. It arrived today, Monday. Happy dance. Thank you very much for your answer, Lauren. It is good when people make good on their mistakes in a very efficient manner with no silly excuses. I remember one time I'd ordered a t-shirt through an on-demand seller through eBay, and I'd ordered a specific one. It was a Green Lantern logo, which I wanted in green, surprisingly, and then they sent me the right design, but it was in white. I thought, maybe I made a mistake. I better go check to make sure it wasn't me. I double-checked, and I had not made a mistake. I'd ordered the right thing. So I sent them an email, and then went out, did some grocery shopping, and by the time I got back, they'd responded very quickly. And they said, sorry about that. We can see, yes, you ordered this. We sent you the wrong thing. If you're okay, keep the one that was incorrect, and we'll pop the right one in the mail at no extra charge. Let us know if that's okay. And I said, yep, absolutely, that's okay. So I basically got a free t-shirt for the trouble, which was very nice. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.